This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Fantopia Friday, everyone. I am your host, Erica Lukes, and always happy to be here on a very cold and snowy night in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's absolutely beautiful outside. And of course, as always, it has been an exciting week in my world. I had a great conversation with Christopher O'Brien, who wrote Stalking the Herd, about cattle mutilations, and he will be on the show in 2 weeks. Next week, Stanton Friedman and Kathleen Martin will be here to talk about their new book, and this will be really, really great. I want to just tell you that on Sunday evening, I will be on Coast to Coast with George Knapp. This is such a great opportunity, and I was delighted when George reached out to me. We're going to be talking about Skinwalker Ranch, and he has, now that Robert Bigelow has sold Skinwalker, he is going to be talking about that a bit more freely, and this will be a really cool interview. So please go to Coast Sunday night at 10 o'clock to listen to the show. But we're going to talk about my next guest because he is a Renaissance man. He is somebody who has been a groundbreaker in this field and has been doing UFO research for 5 decades. It is amazing. He has been with NICAP and has been with that and doing the website for 19 years, doing his research, which is important stuff, the Nuclear Connection Project, Lunascan, and most notably, and we're going to talk a lot about this tonight, Madar, which will revolutionize the way we detect anomalies. This is so exciting for all of us, and he is, like I said, he's been in this for so long, but he is experienced, respected, and has been investigating in a very serious manner the UFO phenomena since 1960, starting out as the head of a 7-man NICAP subcommittee. And if you don't know what NICAP stands for, it's the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. He started back in Indiana in 1960 and was one of the rapid response teams used by the University of Colorado UFO project in 1968. He became Indiana's MUFON State Director and FI for the Center of UFO Studies in 1989. Bridges investigated hundreds of cases. His computer database lists over 4,000 entries for the region covering Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. He has operated and directed the Madar Project, which is UFO detection, and he has done that since 1970. As head of the Indiana group, he was also in charge of the Indiana's rapid deployment team of over 30 field investigators. In 1994, he wrote the book describing his efforts. The book is entitled Regional Encounters, the FC Files, and I am fortunate enough to have one of those in my library. I feel so blessed. He is, like I said, he's just a lovely human being and somebody who has always been willing to help and mentor people, and he's excited about this. And Fran, I'm just so blessed to have you back on the show.
Well, I thank you for having me, and I enjoy doing this with you.
Well, thank you. It is, and happy anniversary, by the way. 19 years with the website, with the NICAP website, is a huge deal.
Oh, yes, it is, and it's amazing, too, because you wouldn't think so, but I was very reluctant to go into anything like that. I was dragged kicking and screaming into the Internet at the time I was, before I was going to do my book and I was working on the Madar project, I was collecting those 4,000 sightings on my database, and I was sitting there pounding them in on the keyboard with a Commodore 64, the old outdated computers, and I wasn't online, and I started having problems with my computer, and there was a lady down the street, and I've just got to thank this lady. She's no longer with us, but her name is Carol Fisher, and she was a retired school teacher. And she came down to the house and helped me resolve the issues with the computer. And she was talking about email and talking about the internet, and I wanted no part of it. I really didn't. And she kept after me about it, and I got into it, got my feet wet. And before I knew it, I was into it pretty thick and heavy. And if it hadn't been for her, I've got to say this, if it wasn't for her, there wouldn't be a NICAP site, because I was just not interested in the internet. Of course, a lot of us don't like change.
Right.
And, we like to do what we do best, and we're into what we're doing. We don't want to be bothered. This is serious stuff, you know. And I'm so glad she did that. And the emails, of course, were the major communications. And I learned to meet and communicate with a lot of people that I didn't know and learn to know, and then got to meet people who were my heroes, who I just read books about, and it was fascinating.
So who were some of the heroes that you met?
Well, I mean, you mentioned a while ago Stanton Friedman. I'd read several of his books, and Dr. Richard Haynes, and a number of people that were that category. Richard Hall, of course, was the head of NICAP when I was young, and I hadn't communicated with him very well. I had, we had correspondence by mail, which took forever, back and forth to Washington, D.C. from Vincennes, Indiana. And here I was emailing Richard Hall. And the next thing I knew, I was contacting and talking with and emailing Michael Swords. And it's been great ever since then. And I have to say, if it wasn't for those people, nothing I would have done would have amounted to anything. It was the group effort. And right now we've got about 33 people on our A team, and they're all of that caliber, you know.
I can't believe it, and everybody needs to go to the NICAP site, because the A team, I mean, these are all the exceptional researchers, contributors in the field. It's amazing. Oh, yeah. Tell us about some of the people on the A team.
Well, if you go to the NICAP site, where it says about NICAP, if someone wants to look in detail, you can look at the A team, the list and the little caption about them. But Jan Aldrich is Project 1947. He's a consultant on Foo Fighters and the early UFO sightings. Later on, he became a member of the Nuclear Connection Project. And then Don Berliner, author of numerous books and articles on aviation history, UFO writer, researcher, and chairman of the Fund for UFO Research. Joe Carpenter, he's deceased now, but he was a pilot, consultant of early UFOs and Foo Fighters, member of the Nuclear Connection Project. Keith Chester, author, researcher, in 2007 published first in-depth study of aerial phenomena observed during World War II, called Strange Company.
And that is, I just have to say, that is such a good book, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to, he and I have been corresponding, and he sent me a message about a month ago saying, hey, Erica, would you like some of my archives? Wow. Some of my things. And so I got a huge box full of Leonard Stringfield's newsletters from the late 50s and 60s.
My gosh, yeah.
I mean, it was, and books that were, inscribed to him, but from Richard Hall, Richard Hall's books. And just, I about my jaw hit the floor when I opened the box, and I promised him that I would scan all the Leonard Stringfield newsletters and get those out there. And I know that Barry Greenwood has done a great job, and he's got those as well. But what a gift! What a wonderful thing!
You mentioned Stringfield, and there's two people that I wasn't lucky enough to meet. They both passed away before I could actually get in communication with them. And Dr. Hynek was one of them, and Leonard Stringfield was another. I would have loved to talk with those people, and I was just born at the wrong time, I guess. Timing was not that good.
Oh my gosh! Did you ever meet John Keel?
No, but I read some of his books. Paul Dean's on the A-Team.
Yes, and I love Paul. And I have him on the show and mention his stuff and list him on my website because he is really, really an important researcher with regard to military documents, and it's just amazing.
Tom Dooley's another, co-founder of the Fund for UFO Research. Robert Durant, he is also deceased, but he was a pilot. And he wrote many articles in the journal and the IUR, and a member of NICAP, by the way. Carl Faint, he's through the years produced a collection of water-related cases, which have always fascinated me. About 1,165 cases up until to date. Ray Fowler, Barry Greenwood, who you mentioned a while ago. Challen Holt is the latest member of our A-Team. How about that? Oh,
we love him.
He's the
what a
director
great
of
guy. Oh.
Yeah, Director of Engineering and IT Specialist for the Madar project. He is sort of a technical support because I have been plagued with problems. There's a long story goes with that because we've had problems with emails, we've had problems with computers, we've had computers just destroyed and had to buy new computers and wore them out too. But we had problems, and it was a blessing to get Challen in on that aspect because that way we can eliminate the problems and fix them quickly. And then, of course, that's a story we'll cover a little later on this evening about Madar. But Don Johnson is another member. He did the computer database with 150,000 reports on it for the Hynek UFO, the UFO Center. And
wow.
Steve Kaser, Jim Klotz, Don Ledger, Bruce Maccabee, Kevin Randall, Mark Roediger, Robert Powell, Bill Schrader, John Schuessler, Brad Sparks, Rob Swiatek, and Michael Swords, Rich Vitello.
I love Rich.
Rich
is great.
So we got a heck of a team. I'm really proud of them, and that's what makes my job so easy. If I run into something and I need information, I just ask the list, and somebody has usually got the answer. If they don't, I know I'm not too dumb.
No, that's true, and I feel, very privileged to be able to be on the list and just watch the communications between all of you, because as a researcher, I've grown so much by watching all of you interact and all of the knowledge that you have. It's just truly, it's a tremendous.
It's fun. It's really enjoyable. And now that I'm fully retired since August, and I was working a lot of hours even when I wasn't retired. But it's great to sit there and get up in the morning at 4 o'clock, have my coffee, and see all this stuff coming in. And when nothing comes in, that's when I start worrying, because I think, well, we've either got something wrong with WOW or something wrong with the list. It's unusual for not having something going on all the time.
And that's great. I love watching all of that and just seeing the thinking process and you guys going over cases. It's really helpful for somebody that's coming into the field. And I'm honored to know you and to have that connection and that resource, because this is really vital for younger people coming into the field to have people that can help guide them and give them good information and show them how to be critical in their thinking process.
I've told people before too that we're probably more organized now than the FBI was back in those days when we started. I mean, we not only just organized, but having the capabilities, the equipment, the databases and such. And I don't know how many listeners know exactly what we do that's so important, but we take cases that are worth working with, and I create a directory for that case, and it has a little synopsis of the case. And, of course, it's categorized by one of 10 categories, and that way you can find what you're looking for a lot quicker. And Category 1 is a distant encounter. Category 2 is a close encounter. Category 3 is MCAT, which is EM effects. In Category 4 is animal reaction and so on. And we have radar and airline cases, and that's how they're grouped. But at the bottom of that directory is a list of links. And those links take you to the documents. And especially the Blue Book period from 47 to 1960 and 69, those are the most interesting, because instead of a civilian sighting where somebody wrote a report and that's it, with the Blue Book cases you have documents. And we take those documents from the Blue Book archive and we make PDFs out of them. A PDF file. It takes a lot more space up on the site, but by doing so, and we put them on the site, we know that they're not going to disappear. You'd be surprised how much work we had done in the early years, and I don't mean the 60s. I'm talking about from the mid-90s on when we were doing the NICAP stuff. How many times we linked to a document, and then years later you would go to that report to look at those, and they're gone.
Oh my gosh.
Or the link had changed. They had changed something, and you couldn't get there. So we made up our mind that this wasn't going to happen again. We were going to make PDFs of those documents and, archive them permanently. So then those reports are placed on the chronos. There's a chrono for each year, and they're put on there with a slight description and the link to the directory. And that is probably the most important part of the NICAP site, are the chronos. If anybody is looking for specific information, whether it's sightings or other types of information, most sites have what they call a search engine. Most of those aren't worth anything, really. But if you go to Google and you type in Salt Lake City, NICAP, you'll find exactly what you're looking for. If you're looking for a specific document, you can describe the document, NICAP. I had one that had disappeared, and I didn't know where to find it to put it in the right place. So, like I said a while ago, the search engine didn't help me. So I went to Google, typed it in, and bam, in seconds, there it was. It told me what file I'd put it in, because the internet knows everything. So
that's kind of frightening sometimes.
Really, I know, but that was so cool to find a document on Google, of all places. But we have had a very strange year. Every year has been different. We started out like any other year working on casework, and we were working on the year 1952, and I was going to get that done and start on 1953. I was really excited about that. But to make a long story short, we never got 1952 done. We were up until right around the end of May. And by that time, we had processed 93 cases. Now, I'm really surprised we got that many done.
Wow.
We processed 93 cases. And that's when, and a lot of people don't realize this, I wear a lot of different hats. I have to look in the mirror to see who I am at a particular time. I mean, I'm either NICAP 1 minute or the Lunascan Project the next minute or Madar, depending on what's going on. And at this particular time, Ananda Surasena had sent me some images from Apollo. And we get them all the time. When you get these images, they're usually disappointing right off the bat. Or if you dig into the information, the story falls apart, or you don't find the source, or you blow them up and the picture keeps getting worse and worse and worse. This was different. This was somewhat interesting, and in the process of checking it out, I got the coordinates on it, and I knew how to use the ACT-REACT map from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. And when I punched in the coordinates, this image popped up. And I literally about fell out of my chair. I mean, I was looking at this thing and I'm thinking, there is no way. This is either natural, and I don't know what it is, or it's artificial. And I was on the phone the whole evening talking to several people. We talked for hours looking at this one image. So I started writing a report. It was, we call it a discovery report rather than a web page. And it was also a briefing to the members of the Lunascan Project.
Oh my gosh! And of course, I've got to cut you off right there. Of course,
okay,
right at the
cool.
right at the cool. The best part of the. It's always the way it rolls.
That's cool.
Oh my gosh! So we're going to talk about that when we get back. And I just want to say, Fran, thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank all of my friends that are in the chat room and listening from all over the world. I get messages from you all the time, and it's so good to connect with you. Thank you, Susan, UFO author, Irv. I want to give a big shout out to my friend Jeff, who's in Japan. And this is Erica Lukes. We're going to be right back. The best is yet to come. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring. Why?
Anyone?
Because they were huddled around the fire, listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network, home for the holiday special. Brilliant! Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, Christmas Eve, it's commercial-free holiday music.
Yes, this Christmas music. It's joyful and triumphant.
Our gift to you from the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
I would like to introduce.
I'm Dave Dalton.
And I'm Dave Garrity.
And I'm Devin Dodson.
From our family to yours, happy holidays. From three guys, no ties on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Well, isn't that special?
Merry Christmas.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good, as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington. Every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
It's Brittany, bitch.
No, it's Jessica Johns, a.k.a. your favorite Britney fan from Reality Check, wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Friday, my friends. I am always happy to be here on UFO Classified, and I'd like to thank once again all of my listeners from all over the globe and my friends in chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting UFO Classified. You know that I try to bring you some of the best researchers, witnesses in the world so we can have further dialogue on this important subject. This means so much to me, as I know it does with all of you. I am here tonight with a legend, one of the most profound researchers and contributors to the field of UFO research, Mr. Fran, who is celebrating 19 years with the NICAP website, and he has been up to a lot of really cool stuff. The Lunascan Project, the Madar Project, and I want to just say for UFO Classified listeners only, if you want to get a Madar unit, which is incredibly cool and groundbreaking, we're going to talk about that, but UFO Classified listeners get 10% off, and it's just for you, and this is very, very cool. I want to thank Fran and Shallon Holt for doing this, and you can get involved with that. Go to NICAP.org, or you can visit UFOclassified.com to find out more information and support NICAP. Irv was the man, and he bought a few NICAP hats and sent me photos. So if you get in there and buy a NICAP hat to support NICAP, please send me your photos and let me know that you did that, because this just, it makes all of us happy that you will support an organization that deserves to be supported and contributes so much. So, Fran, when we left off, you were talking about Lunascan, and you were talking about a very interesting moment when you realized you might have had something.
Yeah, it really shook me up because I'd been disappointed so many other times, and we've always hoped to find something like that. And I spent several hours talking with several people, just going over the image. And I knew from looking at it, there was two objects on the strip. This long, narrow, vertical strip is what you'll find when you go to the site and go to that image. It begins with the letter M. But right in the middle of that long strip, I could see something, and as I clicked towards it, I could see something that was taking shape there, and after 6 clicks, I had it fully blown up. And right in the middle of the screen were two tubular-type structures lying in the lunar regolith that looked like, my first thought at looking at the image was that it was a fuel tank, a huge storage fuel tank, like from a rocket booster or something like that. But it didn't take me long to figure out that if that was a fuel tank and it embedded itself in the moon, it would have been ejected. It would have created a huge crater and bright lines, which you see all over the moon where we've crashed different devices, you know, spacecraft and boosters and whatever, nose cones. And so this was not something that had crashed into the moon. This was something that had been placed there. And the more I looked at it, it looked like somebody had ramped the dirt up with a bulldozer to reinforce it. There were just all kinds of signs around these two objects. There was one that was around 300 feet long, and the other one around 200 feet long. The biggest was probably 50 feet in diameter. The smaller one was like 30 feet in diameter. Slightly tilted, almost like an entrance, and it might have been an entrance to an underground facility or something like that. One of the things that I noticed, there were small impact craters in the area that was ramped up on the larger object, which told me that if that had been constructed the way it looked, then there was an impact afterwards, and there have not been impacts in many, many, many years, thousands of years. So it would have had to have been very old.
Oh my gosh!
Brings up all kinds of possibilities. I mean, did we create something like this, and some cataclysm wiped out all memories of it 50,000 years ago, or did some aliens create it 50,000 years ago? Or did they do it recently? So the first thing we did was the first information we had was that they were Apollo images, but the Apollo images showed what looked like a domino standing up and like a tower. I wasn't too thrilled with that because it's so easy to Photoshop something like that. You see things like that on the internet all the time. So when we found it on the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, we went back to those Apollo shots, which were 1970 vintage, compared to the LRO, which is 2010, 12, whatever. They were still there, but naturally the resolution was less, and you couldn't see the detail. So it told us they were at least that old, but probably older. So anyway, we wrote the report up and circulated it among all the members of the Lunascan project. And we got a colleague that has been working with us in the years past, Dr. Mark Carlotto, who used to work on the Mars project, the Mars face. He went into retirement several years ago, and we got him out of retirement, and he did the analysis We wrote our analysis report in July. Couldn't get it published. So for months, we were waiting and hoping that the report would be published. So finally, in November, the Journal of Space Exploration did publish it, but we almost didn't go with them because they were wanting $1,100 to put it up. And then when we balked about that, they dropped it down to $400, and we decided we'll pull it. But before that happened, they already published it. So anyway, in November, the report was out, and so now we're getting peer reviews on that analysis, and so far we've had over 200 people review it. But that's what happened in the middle of the summer to interrupt the typical NICAP stuff, and that took care of a couple months of the summer, and then along comes August. I fully retire, and I meet up with Challen Holt, and we start working on computer issues. And my wife and I decide we're going to downsize and move to a city about 30 miles from here, and we had to move a bunch of equipment out. So I told Challen, I said, we need to get rid of this equipment while we move, and we may want it back. But he, in one morning in September, early September, we loaded it all up, and we're going to have him take it to Louisville, set it up there. That was the Madar equipment. And he suggested that there might be a simpler way to do what my equipment did. I mean, he had ways to make it better and simpler. You actually had one room downstairs where you walked in. It was sort of like the Madar control room. And then when you came upstairs, you had the bigger room with all the monitors and the quad processors and the radiation network and everything set up.
And you've got some pictures of that, and that is quite the control center. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. And all of that equipment, I had to get it out of the house. So he took it to Louisville, and like I said, he suggested, at least on the sensor part, the main sensor used a vertical light beam, and it's done its job. It's been fantastic, but he had a way to make it a little simpler. So he leaves, and the next morning I'm sitting at my bar having my breakfast at 6:30, and this idea hit me. I just could not believe it. I couldn't get done quick enough with my breakfast to actually write up a report and get it out to the Luniscan people. And it didn't take too long, and Challen was telling me, you need to take that off. We don't need to put that up yet. I got an idea. And it has been crazy ever since then. It turned out so much different and so much better, and continues to develop. I can't believe how far this thing has come, and we're very excited about it. He is better at it describing what it does and how it does it, naturally, because he's the brainchild, the one that really got it going that way.
Oh my gosh, he is, and we've had him on this show before with you, and then he was on a couple weeks ago talking a little bit about it. But this project is so significant because it is the first time this has ever been done, and this is something that you've been working on since the 70s. And for listeners that don't know about Madar and how it started, and the fact that there was a very significant period of time with a WOW signal, I think that would be wonderful if you could just explain some of that so they know how important Madar is.
The whole idea came about from a gentleman that I met when I started the NICAP subcommittee. he was one of our technical advisors. His name was Louis Blevins, and he worked for Universal Scientific, and they developed and worked on Tesla coils. And 2 years later, I was working with them on a Navy torpedo project. I worked for them for a couple of years. But he was interested in UFOs, and it was very strange. And like I said to many people many times, nothing ever happens by accident. Me just running into this guy was something, especially when I found out that he had worked on Project Sign. He wasn't one of the big names, but he had worked. A lot of people had worked, on Project Sign when it started. And he knew that the day that Kenneth Arnold had his famous sighting, that there was a prospector in Oregon that was watching something in the sky about the same time and noticed his compass needle was going crazy. And of course, since then, we've got hundreds of cases that we've found where automobile compasses and aircraft compasses and devices have shown, changed in the Earth's magnetic field when UFOs fly over. So he told me how to build a detector, and I was pretty innovative, and I improved on it. But I really didn't get to do too much with it until after I had been transferred a couple times with the company I was working for. And once I got to Mount Vernon in 1970, after 2 or 3 transfers, it was time to settle down and stay. And I took the idea and made a system out of it, because before it was a detector, it was an excellent detector. It was not only more sensitive than we thought, it turned out to be, it was just wonderful how well it worked. And by the way, the HRS-1 that we've got now that we're talking about with Madar 3 is even better, a lot better than that. But the idea of a system, something to come out of a detection, not just the idea that, hey, an alarm's going off, go out and take a look. Multiple anomaly detection and automatic recording. Once the system triggers the circuit, you can have all kinds of devices tied in with that. And Madar had numerous recorders. One dual recorder recorded police and aircraft transmissions, so that if something was going on in the area at the time, you just might happen to catch some communication there. And sometimes there was clues in the recordings that gave us information we needed to know. One time we had a Madar detection, and the very first thing on the radio we heard was a truck had struck a power pole, so that caused a power outage, and that little surge knocked the pole over, sent a surge to the line, and set off the Madar equipment. But and then the Geiger counter is running 24/7, so that when the Madar kicks on, it turns on a recorder, and you get the counts, which was great in Madar 15, where the wow signal was involved in the radar, radiation doubled at the same time. So that it turned into in 1970, it turned into a system, the Madar system, and it ran for like 22 years. And then I got to the point where I had written the book, done the database, and really kind of did everything I could, I thought. And I started getting interested in the moon and buying a telescope and getting a bunch of people together, and I started the Lunascan project in 1996. And that was before the NICAP now. This is before the NICAP website. NICAP started in 56 and kind of died out in the 70s, but I had gotten to where I wanted to sort of retire and really enjoy working with the moon. So we set that up, and within a year, we rediscovered the Blair Cuspids, which had been lost for years. Nobody knew where they were. They were pretty interesting because they looked like towers on the moon, but on the near side. And we not only found them, but working with David Williams from the NASA Space and Science Data Center out of Greenbelt, we were able to find another photograph overlapping. It's called a footprint, and they were on that also. So we were able to prove that they were there. Still don't know what they are. And then, of course, back in 2012, we found them on the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter images. So that was pretty cool. But did a lot of work with the Lunascan project. I had over 100 missions, about 2-3 hours apiece, with the telescope and the cameras and all that stuff, and always looking for something unusual. On one night in '97 in September, we picked up a target that looked like it was orbiting the moon. We documented that, and so there were a couple real important finds with the Lunascan project, but I never did quite see on a screen something fly up in front of us that would knock our socks off until June, when we discovered this thing on Parasols to see on the backside of the moon.
That is so incredible. With regard to the 97 target that you saw, I mean, do you have anything that we could look at on the website or any photos?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
the pictures aren't that awesome, but when you go to the site, you will see the blow up of it. And of course, there's an AVI file that shows you the 17 seconds we tracked it. We concluded that if it was highly reflective, it could have been small, whereas if it wasn't highly reflective, it had to be bigger. But it was probably about a mile in diameter, and we assumed it was orbiting the moon, but we never did catch it on the next pass or anything like that. Years later, somebody tried to degrade it and say that they had actually found a chart that showed if you superimpose the charts at the exact same time, there was a star in that position. Well, that sounds very good. That sounds just wonderful, except for a couple of reasons. Of course, I couldn't get my point across. They just wanted it that way. They're debunkers. First of all, there's always stars in the background. Always. There's so many billions of stars back there. If you wanted to prove anything, you could always find a star that was at the same spot. Right. The other thing is, all the missions that we had, we never once caught Jupiter or Saturn or Mars or Venus, and those were bright planets. And the reason is because the moon is so bright, it washed them out near the limbs. So that didn't fly at all. But that was pretty cool. We discovered something near the moon, and then we rediscovered the Blair cuspids. Little did we know that we would make our biggest discovery without a telescope, just going over the images like we did in June. But
that's amazing, and I just have to say, you have the patience of a saint. I mean, I can't believe how much work that you've put into this. And I think people, when they get into this field, they think that this is going to be, I'm just going to go out there and find something. It takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of education, and you have to learn about the natural environment and everything. And so I commend you for doing that for so long. Well,
it's as exciting now as it was then, and we don't know what's lurking in the future. I think it was interesting. A year ago, now Rob Swiatek is with the Fund for UFO Research. Do you know Rob?
I met him at a couple of the MUFON symposiums. Yeah.
Okay. He sent a letter, as he usually does every year, wishing me a Merry Christmas and my family and all. And the last paragraph sincerely stated, optimistically, I'd like to say that perhaps we'll see a breakthrough in 2016 vis-a-vis the UFO problem. But after almost 50 years in this field, longer for you, I know, the chances of this would seem to be remote. He then wished me and my family a Merry Christmas, but little did he know that 2016 would bring several major events.
Isn't that wonderful?
Madar and Parasols to see. And it's not over, but I mean, that's probably more than we can handle for the year anyway. But it's been quite a year. And needless to say, we never got done with 1952. But I guess it can wait.
Well, I mean, just to know, and I think that people out there need to understand the groundbreaking things that have happened. I mean, truly, like you were saying in 2016, these are big events. And I think that, whatever all of you that are listening can do to spread the word about the important work that Fran Ridge and his team have accomplished, and to tell people about NICAP.org, to go there, to donate, to learn about Madar, to get involved. This is important. And to me, this is more important than, joining an organization and not knowing where your money is necessarily going, but you're contributing to research, and you can see all of the progress that is being made. And that's what we need to do, is really support you and others like you. UFO Data, I mean, they do a great job. There's so many cool things that are out there, and I think it's just a matter of educating people.
I just wish that something like this had happened when I was younger, to where all I would have to do is buy some equipment and take part in it. But we weren't that lucky. But we didn't know any different. We were involved in an era where there were a lot of interesting, good close encounter sightings going on, and now you don't really hear too much about those. We get a lot of, nocturnal light sightings, and some of the close encounters are blown out of proportion when you compare them with the kind that we were used to back in those days, where people saw saucer-shaped craft with landing pods and people walking around and whatever.
Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about that when we get back. I am Erica Lukes here with Fran Ridge. Make sure you go to NICAP.org. Check it out. Check out Madar. And we will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Happy Friday, my friends, and happy holiday season. I hope that all of you are getting prepared for Christmas, Hanukkah, just whatever, but I hope you're enjoying time with your family and friends, and you are all safe and sound. I am here tonight with someone that I just absolutely think is a beautiful human being and is such an inspiration for me, for many other people in the field. And when I really sit back and look at the profound impact Fran Ridge has had in our community for decades, I feel blessed that he's here tonight to talk about his experiences and his work that will change the way we view this subject. We are talking about Lunascan, and we're also talking about the Madar project, which he has been working on for over 50 years. And now, with the help of Shallon Holt, they have made this teeny little device, and I have one here, and that is incredible. It will change anomaly detection, and you can get one tonight and be a part of the project. And you as a UFO classified listener get a 10% discount, and I'm grateful for that. So you can go to shopmadarnetwork.com to find more out about that, to get involved and to have one of those there, so you can add all of your information from wherever you are at into the system, and we can try to discover what we're dealing with. But Fran, again, I just am so happy to have you here. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having us. We're a heck of a team. If you would have known me back in the mid-90s, you wouldn't probably given me the build-up that you did a while ago, because I was just a researcher doing my thing. But when I got involved with all these people and they became part of my A-team, that's what made it really count. We've done it together.
See, and I love that, because I have found that the truly humble people are always giving credit to other people, and I love that, because that's when you truly know you found somebody that is of merit, and that somebody is really made great contributions. Because other people in the fields that are, going with the ego thing, it's all about them and what they've done. And you are always so kind that way. I love that.
Well, it's great for me when I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning with my coffee, knowing that if I need anything, there's somebody out there that I can put my trust in. If we're looking for trace cases, Ted Phillips is the man. And, it's having those tools that makes it so much more interesting,
Isn't that wonderful? And everybody seems to have their niche, and it's like you can, somebody to go for them. And with my UAP research and the anomalous light stuff, it's like I know that I can go to this certain person over here in Washington State, or I can go to, this person in Australia, and then just kind of collect data and then see where we go. But I've been fortunate to find people that are helpful, like Barry Greenwood, like you. I can, Skype Barry and say, hey, Barry, I need, this certain document, and he is willing to help. And that's it's a really a cool thing. And we need more of that.
Barry is awesome. He can take a document that's full of all kinds of garbage and smears and whatever. And when he gets done with it, it's a beautiful piece of art. I don't know how long it takes him to do it, but he has resubmitted some documents to me, and they were cleaned up so well. It was just unbelievable how good they were.
And he's I just have to mention him for a minute longer, because the more I get to know both of you, the more I'm just in absolute awe of what you have both done. And, I'll talk to Barry, and he's always active he's getting some archive here, and he's working with Jan Aldrich to secure other archives, which is important, because now we're seeing a lot of researchers that are passing away, and oftentimes their work gets thrown in a dumpster, or, or donated to a university where we might not have access to those archives. And he and Jan are just out there getting as much information, and they're putting it in a database that all of us can utilize. And that's a big deal.
It really is.
I love it.
This business about the HRS-1 that we're selling at 10% off. It's one way we can tell how the advertising is going, by doing it that way too. So I want you to know that your people always get that 10%. There's no time limit on that.
And so let's talk about that, because I know that a lot of my listeners, we want to be active. We want to give information. We want to, instead of just, throwing money away, we want to make sure that it's going to really contribute to this field. And so let's talk about the Madar project and what they can get with this device that is truly a breakthrough in technology?
Well, first of all, if somebody would have seen what I had to contend with, I mean, I was very proud of what I had, but I had equipment everywhere. And I will have it back, because when I get moved, I will have the old Madar 2 also set up along with it, because there were some things that I liked about what I could do with that. But when you compare, when you hold this little device in your hand, if you would compare that with a cell phone, people really have a respect for a cell phone nowadays. Look what you can do with it. And this little device is going to do so much. It's so, I expected it to be 3 or 4 times the size. So when I got it, I thought, man, this thing is jam-packed with all kinds of goodies. It's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 to $15,000 worth of programming in it. And I mean, that's just a simple matter of math, that someone sitting down and writing the program. I mean, it is so well written with things that are going to be great right off the bat, but each month it will be able to do more. And the real exciting thing about it is you won't have to go out and buy another device. You just reboot the old device and just constantly have the new program. So it's going to revolutionize the potential of getting data, because it's basically an early warning system. And that was the whole idea of Madar when I first came up with it, was some way to let me know that something's going on, and grab some equipment, some handheld equipment, and go out there and hopefully see something, photograph it. At that time, I was thinking of a handheld Geiger counter, but then I incorporated it into the system. So I was able to do that automatically, so it eventually became a automatic station. If I was in the Florida Keys somewhere or the Bahamas, came home and the device had gone off, all that data would be stored on recorders. So it's pretty cool.
That is
cool. This little device is not only going to give us readings that are much more sensitive than we had with Madar 2, Madar 1 and Madar 2. And it will also store this data on its hard drive and transmit the data to our station, which will be in Louisville, the Madar setup, and store for months of data at 500 milliseconds. And we were going to stretch it out to 1,000 milliseconds, but we decided something could happen in between there, so we've kept at the 500 milliseconds, and had to figure out what to do with all the data that's piling up. But it's going to be able to do quite a bit, and like I said, it'll be updatable. You can add things to it if a person wanted to go and have a more elaborate system with a Geiger counter. In the second quarter of next year, we'll have an add-on where you could do that. Hopefully have an add-on where you can get temperature and atmospheric pressure. That would be very interesting to see what happens to atmospheric pressure when the UFO passes over.
It would be.
So all kinds of things can be added to it without buying anything else in most instances, but you can get add-ons. But
so what is the range?
Small but mighty. Actually, it doesn't have it's not restricted to a range, because with UFOs we found out that the UFOs putting out the electromagnetic disturbance. So depending on a couple of things, the energy that the UFOs putting out could be higher during high performance movements, or it could be less when it's hovering. But there are just several factors that could cause it to, be more sensitive. It's kind of hard for me to describe it, but the UFO does all the work. It's like having an airplane that puts out the radar signal rather than the radar putting out the signal to bounce off the airplane.
And isn't that fascinating? I mean, to me, when I go back to the WOW signal and the fact that all the way, a few decades ago, Madar was so efficient that it picked up that UFO disturbance, that anomaly that was taking place the same time the WOW signal was heard. So if that's what Madar was doing that many years ago, just think of the amazing contributions it's going to make now. I mean, that's really profound. And if we get this in different hotspots all over the world, Skinwalker Ranch up in that area, and then we can collect the data and get people that are out there, getting the signal, and then something happens, they're out in the field, like you were saying, with equipment. This is going to be, this will revolutionize the way we're doing things.
There are a lot of places that these devices could be placed that would be perfect. We're always thinking of putting them in locations, and something might happen in that location. But if something's already going on, that'd be excellent to move the devices into those areas. There's hot spots all over the country that, once you become aware of them, people should be putting something in those positions. Another thing we can do, and I'll be probably working on that a lot, is when I'm working with people that have the devices, and there are incidents, I can work with Peter Davenport and look at his printouts. He gets the calls 24/7, and we can compare incidents with the detections from the equipment. So we've got a data source to go along with it. He's got quite a database.
Oh, he does. Yeah, he does. Yeah. And that's incredible. I mean, I think this is so exciting. And I have to say that after we did our first show together, when you came on to really announce all of this, people were clamoring to find out about this. And these are people that are pretty high up there. They wanted to know exactly what you were doing, and that is cool. That means that you are on to something, that this is important.
Well, we were a little premature at the time because we had some ideas that we were going to incorporate, and so we kind of held off a little bit. And then, of course, it took a little longer to get parts than we thought. Instead of 30 days to get parts, it took like 45 days to get a lot of the basic parts. So last week we had everything come in that we needed, and boy, we were at that point, we were ready to go. We were ready to start putting them out there. In fact, I think we sold 3 in the last few days.
Oh, that is awesome.
It's going to be fascinating to look at the map. We're working on a couple different visuals where people will actually look on the map and they can see the devices all over the world, but specifically the United States. And you'll see the devices and you will know what they're reading. And there's also a source where you click on the upper right. May not be there the next time, might be on the upper left when we get done with it, but when you click on it, it will have data lines, and on the data lines, it lists the exact time that the incident took place. And what's interesting, I had to use a WWV shortwave receiver, which had tubes in it, and lit up my room at night when I walked down the hall. And that thing was running 24/7, and that was picking up the signal from Boulder, Colorado. And there were times when you would listen in on it, and you were off frequency, and you had to constantly readjust it depending on the temperature or the season. There's some days, there was actually days you couldn't receive the signal at all, and it was they were transmitting the signal on 5, 10, 15, and 20 megahertz, and 15 is where we normally picked up the signal. So this was frustrating because I had to transmit that signal out to my trailer where the Lunascan equipment was, and that's how we time dated our scanning sessions. And there'd be times when there was no way to do it. I mean, unless the signal broke in, and then you could time date a certain point on the data tape, then you could calculate the time. But back to Madar 3 and HRS-1, this computer time dating is perfect. I mean, it's right to the second, and that is awesome. You'll be able to look on that one screen and see all the devices, probably listed in chronological order by state, and see what's running just in the United States. But then if there's anything going on, we'll be able to really get a handle on it. We got some great ideas on that.
Oh, well, you always have great ideas. I mean, you guys are just jamming with all of it, and I think we're all excited. I'm getting messages right now, private messages saying, "How much is Madar? When can we get one, and how can we do that?" So I think this is going to be very exciting and very empowering to people that are trying to make a difference and have felt frustrated as to how to do that. So this is really cool. And I have to ask you, you were mentioning different hotspots in the country. Can you tell us where some of those hotspots are?
Well, right now I can't, because I'm really not on top of that aspect of it, doing the kind of work that I do. But when I was state director and working with NICAP, I knew where the hotspots were. California was always the hottest state. Florida, New Mexico, Ohio, Missouri, those places were always hotspots as far as states go. And then when you talk about certain locations, like in Indiana, we had a place called Lucky Point, but we never had any equipment to put there. It's just a shame that we didn't. But I wanted to mention too about the device at the end of January. Those that have it, of course, will be able to receive an email or a text message when the device picks up something. So that's really going to make it cool.
That will be cool. That is really cool. I love having mine, and I think this is going to be, I think it could build kind of a really nice, tight-knit little community, all over the world we're all doing the same thing, and we're all trying to make a positive contribution. And I love that. But we have a question in chat. Does the military, are they interested in this? Are they able to pick up on the device at all?
At this point, we can't say. If they knew about it, I'm sure they would be interested. It's a question of do they monitor us close enough to know, or do they care enough to know?
And
we'll be finding out, I suppose. I suppose if we'll have someone purchase a device, and we won't know that it is going back to some military source. We don't know.
Well, and
exactly. We get them out there. We want them. I particularly want them up in the northern states, like North and South Dakota, where the missile sites are. And that sounds kind of ominous. We're not trying to do anything wrong, but a lot of people would, especially the military, would probably think, "What in the world do they want them up there for?" Well, simply because Peter Davenport and a lot of other people say that's where there's UFO activity.
Exactly.
Now, if the government wants to say, "Well, I'm sorry, it's not UFO activity, it's those are IFOs, and you can call it what you want." Well, if they want to think that, that's fine. But if they also realize that there's something going on that they can't explain, then that's a little different. That's why we want to get devices in those kind of areas. And it's real simple. These are so small and easy to place that a person would just go to a certain room where they know it won't be bothered and just put it there.
Oh, yeah, they're teeny. It's great. And we have a question. Do you have any up in Canada?
No, but there's one going up there.
Well, perhaps we need two.
One was purchased this week. That's going to Canada. So that'll be cool. And I don't know if you know too much about the NICAP subcommittees. They had subcommittees all over. We had 3 in Indiana. Well, our sites will probably be named like that: Indiana 1, Indiana 2, Indiana 3, and Utah 1 and Utah 2. Something like that.
Sweet. Well, I know that Jeff will be Utah too, because he's messaging me and he wants one, and when he gets back from Japan he will definitely do that. So yeah, we're gonna get 2 in Canada. I just got a message from Northern UFOs on my chat, so we're doing this. This is really awesome, Fran. I'm so happy to have you here, and I just wanted to say, please, everybody, go to NICAP.org, learn about Madar, spread the word, and get a NICAP hat, because not only are they super cool, but Irv got some and took pictures and sent them to me, and these little donations mean a lot to a really important group of people who are making a difference with research, who are spending their time and dedicating their resources to carrying on this work that we all need to be aware of. And so if you're looking for Blue Book archives, if you're looking for documents, if you're looking for in Lunascan, you need to learn about that. There's so many things that NICAP.org can show you. And again, I'm blessed to have Fran Ridge here tonight. I am grateful to have all of you listening. And this Sunday night, I will be on Coast to Coast. We're going to take our last break. We will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Ho, 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 ho. This is Tim Beckley, co-host of Exploring the Bizarre on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. And happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and a mighty good New Year to all of us here, to all of you there.
Gee, it's so quiet. Too quiet. Terribly quiet. Awfully quiet.
Do you have an hour to kill? Well, crank up those EVPs, spirit boxes, and walk the haunted halls of the unknown with UK's very own paranormal investigator, David Cook.
You guys ready for this?
The Ghostly Hour, live Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern.
And now, you're mine.
Come hear first-hand accounts of some of the most famous ghost sightings, photos, and videos from around the world. Skeptics, believers, and spirits both good and bad. Welcome to The Ghostly Hour, hosted by David Cook. Live every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Hi guys, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity. We here at RPA and our family at KCOR Digital Radio Network want to wish all our listeners from around the world a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Oh yeah, we love you.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. For Hyperspace. The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
Solaris Blue Raven.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride? Take a ride. Take a ride.
This is the world famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
Hi, this is Dwight Lilly with The Dwight Lilly Show. I want to wish you and your family and loved ones a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from my family to yours. Again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone, for the last segment of UFO Classified this evening. But never fear, because we have a night of wonderful, talented women that are going to be bringing it home for you. We've got Tina Marie coming up and Solaris Blue Raven. It'll be a great night on KCOR. I want to give a shout out to my excellent producer and station owner, Tina Marie, who always takes good care of me, and I'm very proud to be a part of this network. I want to thank all my friends in chat and listening all over, spreading the word. If you are around and about and want to get in your pajamas and listen to some good radio on Sunday night, I will be on Coast to Coast with George Knapp talking about Skinwalker Ranch. You won't want to miss that show. I will be speaking in February at the Open Minds, the UFO Congress. So if you can get down there, I would definitely recommend that. And then I will be doing a field research study with some very important people in the field, and I will be taking Madar out into the field to test this and to get hopefully data from a very active location. So this is cool. And Fran is with me tonight. He is celebrating the 19th anniversary of the NICAP website and Madar 3, which is incredible. So welcome back, Fran.
Yeah.
This is great to see the people interacting on chat and messaging me on Facebook. I mean, they want to get one of these. They want to make a difference. And this is exciting for all of us.
Well, it's great as it is, but it's going to become so much greater as the months pass on. If there's anybody out there that's a ghost hunter fan, if you recall, there was a device that they carried around with them, and I have one of those devices because it is for electromagnetic effects. It was called the K2 meter, and it had the little lights that went in an arc left to right, if you recall. We're going to have a device like that just for a handheld equipment for the team to go out after an alert, and the information from that little device will Wi-Fi to the HRS-1, and that will be transmitted to us. So you'll be able to store even more data with it, and there's just no telling how many more devices can be put in its vicinity and be able to record and transmit data to our facilities.
That is so cool. And I have to say that it is interesting to me because I've always studied the paranormal and that ghost hunting because I think it overlaps so much. And at the end of the day, we don't know where one phenomena leaves and the other one picks up. And I think that this is interesting that you mentioned the K2 meter. If somebody was going to, go out there and buy pieces of equipment other than coming to your site to get this, what kind of pieces of equipment would you think people would need that would be important?
Well, naturally, pair of binoculars. One of the pieces of equipment that I have that most people aren't even aware of that would be useful is a strobe light. It's the type, if you remember in Jaws, Richard Dreyfuss had two of those on board the ship, and he switched them on and they flashed so they could be seen at a long distance. Those are used as part of the safety equipment on boats. And I've always had one of those because if something would occur, or if you were on Skywatch, for example, and you saw something in the sky that you weren't too sure of, you could switch on that strobe light and see if you got a reaction. And that was always a cool piece of equipment to have with us. I still have one of those. A notepad, pencil, of course, or pen, pocket compass, maybe. I'm going to have actually a list posted of all the equipment a person should take with them. One of them would be good would be a small Geiger counter, and that's another thing. Not only will a Geiger counter be a integral part of the more deluxe system where you can just plug it in, but that same Geiger counter is cheap enough that a person could have one of those just to tote around instead of spending $350 for a real good Geiger counter. We could supply one at much less cost, and that you could take out with you with the team. We used to use CB radios, but nowadays people use their cell phones, so you can talk miles and miles with those.
But you know what, though? I mean, that's the thing, and I know that the location that we're going out to do some field research, I mean, I don't think there's any cell reception.
Really?
No.
Well, if you need communication, there's walkie-talkies that have 3, 5, and 10-mile range, so, And that's interesting for a couple of reasons, One being communications, the other would be if communications failed during a UFO encounter. We had an instance where we went out on a alert, 3 different cars, and there was a UFO sighted that night. And we were like a quarter of a mile apart. We couldn't communicate with CB radios. And the guys that I worked with were always confounded by that fact because they had a 5 or 10 mile range on them, and we could not communicate. We were only a quarter mile apart. So that was interesting.
That is interesting, and I have to ask you about the power outages associated with UFO sightings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's quite a few reports of things like that. Of course, we had the Northeast power grid failure that occurred. I forget what year that was, but that was a major power failure. UFOs were involved to a certain extent. The Federal Power Commission said that a relay had gone out somewhere in Canada. They said the Q-29 relay at Sir Adam Beck Generating Station had gone bad, but when the Federal Power Commission pulled that relay out and checked it, there was nothing wrong with it. And naturally, right after the power outage was over and power was restored, they never could figure out what happened. But we don't know the mechanism that causes power failures, whether it be automobiles or whatever. But it's sort of like, instead of always happening when a UFO flies over, which, people would suggest, well, the power's going to fail. Whenever that happens, it's almost as if it's directed. I've always had the impression that automobiles, when there's a power failure involved, that it was something directed to deliberately disable the automobile. And
Right.
it's kind of strange that we didn't have airplanes falling out of the sky, because it's like, somebody knows that they don't want to do that. Planes will not just sit there when you turn the power off.
But I
Go
just
ahead.
have to say, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that, when you look at some of the UAP sightings with regard to aircraft, I mean, they have pretty severe consequences for the electronics on board, and I think that it can. I would be willing to bet that there would be more cases of flights that have gone down due to this type of interference than we probably know about.
Well, that would be true. There are a lot that could have occurred that we just didn't know about. But it looks as if the control or the use of this type of disabling mechanism is being handled properly. There was one instance, I think it was Covington, Kentucky, where there was a diesel tractor and a conventional tractor, and the UFO flew over and it disabled the conventional engine, but didn't disable the diesel. That was interesting scientifically.
That is interesting.
And then, of course, we had the train case where the train was stopped here in Mount Vernon, and that was diesel. But it wasn't the typical shutdown. It was an overheated rear unit, which means that something was affecting it, but it didn't just outright disable it. So we're learning a lot of things. We're trying to put a lot of things together.
And that's good.
That's a whole new subject that we haven't even discussed yet. We're collecting data, but very few people are actually looking at it and trying to figure out, what does this mean?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing, when I got involved with MUFON and started that process of learning, I mean, to me, my biggest thought was, why aren't we analyzing the data? Because the data is where the Holy Grail is. It's not on one particular sighting, that is going to be the mothership landing on the White House lawn. I mean, it's the data, and that will tell us where we need to go, where we need to conduct field research, and the commonalities we need to look for. I mean, this is just too important, and I'm always stunned that people aren't looking at that more seriously.
I hate to say it, but right now it seems like, as much as we've learned and all the years that we put in, there's more effort now to prove if UFOs actually exist than there is to study the data. And, of course, I'm not referring to people on my A-team, but there are a lot of people out there that spend more time just trying to prove that they exist. What we do need, we probably have enough right now to come up with something without the Holy Grail, of course, but specific about what's going on, and not be too concerned about the scientific repercussions. You're going to offend somebody, you're going to break the rules of science by coming up with this hypothesis. But when you talk to people like Stanton Friedman and a number of others, they don't beat around the bush when it comes to what they think.
No,
and there's no real need to. I don't.
No, my gosh, and I think that unfortunately, we've seen a trend where social media has not been a friend with regard to this, because it's allowed people that are debunkers to kind of get in there and take over some good groups of people that are really looking for answers. And I think that, as I just kind of caution all of you, if you're looking for answers, there are places to go where you're going to get credible information. That's Barry Greenwood Archives. That's NICAP. That is, go to UFO Data, go to QFOS. I mean, all of these places, that's where you're going to get good information. And there is more information. You cannot be an intelligent human being and argue the fact that there is something extraordinary that is interacting with us.
You would have to be pretty nearsighted.
You would be. And I think that, when I talk to Ted Rowe, we have conversations all the time, and he's always saying that it is really incredibly important now that we view this as a tactical issue. And I think that, for me, I don't want to sit around and debate the fact of UFOs being real or not real. Well, I know that they are. There's enough evidence, so we need to move forward and then push ourselves in that direction and kind of get rid of the dead weight. I think that's imperative.
I've found that the people that don't accept the concept, when you come up with this real tantalizing evidence and you present it to them, it doesn't mean anything to them. And they will refer to you as a conspiracy theorist. They just don't get it. I mean, they just don't get it. And then on the other hand, unfortunately, there are people that believe everything, Erica. And
I know.
It's embarrassing to be around those people because you're standing in a public place and they're spewing out this information and people are looking at both of you. It's embarrassing, but yeah, there is a happy medium in there where a normal, rational person is going to say, there's something going on here, definitely.
There is, and I think that I think that right now it's especially critical because we're seeing a lot of older people pass away, and we're not seeing a lot of younger people engaging this topic, and so we need to find people that are going to be willing to give out good information and to instill a sense of passion and to show all of these incredible things, the groundwork that all of you have laid out for us. And I think that that's vital. And for me, I want to learn how to be the best investigator, the best researcher I can. And you're helping me do that. And I feel very privileged, but I think that for me, I've definitely come to that conclusion that I don't need to banter back and forth with skeptics or debunkers because that is such a waste of energy.
We know who they are. Sometimes they don't think that we do. They think they're doing a good job and they're getting away with it. But we know basically who they are. But we just go on. I don't believe in rewriting history. I believe finding the truth, no matter what it is what's important. But that's what they want to do. They want to take what we know happened and change it to what they want it to be. And it's just, it's unfortunate. But we don't let them daunt us. We don't let them slow us down or stop us. It's just too important. So we just move on and just do our thing,
And I think that is so great. And in all of your years doing this, what is the most profound thing that you have realized? And that's a deep question. I'm sorry to throw you off there.
It really is. It really is. I mean, I've had so many things happen to me. Most people that are in this field, like yourself, of course, you may have progressed further than what I'm suggesting, but most people investigate and turn in the sightings, and if they're lucky, they've seen something. But I've had so many things happen to me that just made it that much more imperative for me to do what I'm doing. And but I can't think of anything other than the most profound thing that I ran into, and it really shook me up, was the wow signal incident. I mean, 30 years goes by, and I didn't even know that my equipment had picked up something at the exact same time that the wow signal occurred, 310 miles to the northeast in Delaware, Ohio. I hate to admit it that we never even tried to correlate it with SETI. Never even dreamed of anything like that. But I've been privy to so many important sightings, involved with them. I've had more than my share of great cases. We never even began to discuss the car chase case in Wayne City, Illinois. When the NICAP team first got started, it was amazing that we went over in Illinois, which was way out of our reach for Indiana Unit 1. That was 150 miles. That was a long way back then.
Wow.
And we had all the witnesses at the police station to interview. There was 40 or 50 different witnesses that had made reports in the newspapers, but just a few showed up. But it was this boy and his girlfriend had gone to the movies, The Great Escape, and they were on their way home around midnight, and this thing was following the car. And it was spooking them to the point where, and they knew it was following them, so Ronnie Austin pulled the car off the road at Phyllis Bruce's home and let her out of the car, and they both ran inside and sort of hid while the object was outside. And then when he thought it was safe to leave and leave her at her house, he got in his car and took off, and it followed him all the way home. And he says he got up to 100 miles an hour with his Ford Victoria, which at that time was one of those police car type engines, Challenger engines. And he said his speedometer was going back and forth, and what we think happened was he was going fast, but his tires were spinning a little bit and making he wasn't on the gravel traveling that fast, and the speedometer was doing that. And then when he pulled up in the driveway, his family ran out and saw the object, saw him all upset. He was going into shock. And before the week was over, the Air Force was there. They had a special Air Force team, which was very unusual. They normally send the local field investigator from the nearest Air Force base, but in this case they sent Major Robert Friend, and Hector Quintanilla was just a sergeant at that time. They were there. Yeah, they were there. They checked. They had him wash the car. They checked it for radiation. They checked it for electromagnetic, with a compass to see if it was magnetized. And we didn't get a chance to talk to the boy because he was still pretty upset. He was a normal kid that went out all the time with his friends, and he hadn't been out of the house for 2 weeks. He had lost 18 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And his father sat on the front porch and told us what had happened, and we constructed the report for NICAP. And there were several other sightings that night, or that week.
Wow.
It was that was 1963, August of 1963. So we have been involved in some very interesting cases. Very blessed, and so we've seen what really happens out there within what people try to imply, people being misidentifying this or that.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I think that you would definitely say that what we're dealing with is far more bizarre and profound than we would ever have imagined.
Definitely. And I'm not one to say we're dealing with aliens. I don't know.
Right.
There are all kinds of possibilities. Now we're starting to really enjoy shows like Timeless and stories about time travel. There are all types of different possibilities. The only thing I can say for sure is we're dealing with something intelligent. And they have to be, in order to build craft like that are being described or were being described, at least during most of the early years until something seems to have happened, the devices were solid, and they had to be constructed by somebody that was capable of doing that. Monsters that walk around like tree trunks aren't capable of building devices like that. It takes somebody with fingers, hands, intelligence, somebody that's capable of doing things similar to what we do, but on a much higher scale.
Oh, and there's so many, this raises so many great questions, and it's just the whole topic. I swear, the more I delve into this, the more I just sit there absolutely stupefied, because the implications are so profound, and this is happening, and I feel grateful that I can engage with someone like you, and we can try to move forward and hopefully glean some knowledge about this. This is incredible, and I want to just tell everyone thank you for listening tonight. Thank you for caring about NICAP. Make sure you go to the NICAP.org website, learn about all of the important information that they have out there. Get a Madar unit, and let's all work together to solve this, to figure out what we're dealing with. And I really have to thank you, Fran, from the bottom of my heart. You are an absolute gem in my life. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And I want to say next week I will be here with Stanton Friedman and Kathleen Martin. The next week will be Christopher O'Brien. Again, thank you and happy holidays, all of my UFO Classified friends. Stick around for a great night on KCOR. We'll see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio